So there's a strange stretch of time that every new adjuster goes through. You're doing everything you can think of to be ready, but the phone isn't ringing yet. And that's when the doubts kick in. Am I doing enough? Am I doing the right things? Have I missed a step? This is where most people drift or stall out or start taking advice from people on Reddit who tell them that training is a scam and you should just wing it when you get deployed. But the adjusters who go on to build real careers treat this period differently. They use it to get dangerous. They use it to stack licenses, learn Xactimate the right way, build relationships with firms, and show up so prepared that when they finally get their first deployment, everything clicks. I'm Matt with Adjuster TV, and in this video, I'm gonna lay out the exact roadmap for that quiet stretch before your first opportunity. How to position yourself with IA firms, how to choose the licenses that actually matter, the training that shortens your learning curve, and the moves that get you remembered instead of forgotten. And speaking of certifications, are you looking for building inspection and desk adjuster trainings and certifications? Then you need to check out today's sponsor, Hague Education. These guys are the #1 resource for industry standard damage identification books, trainings, and certifications. And you can get those right now at hagueeducation.com and use code AdjusterTV at checkout. Okay, let's get into my conversation with Dan, starting now.
Obviously, my goal is to, I got to pass this test. And then my goal is to, in that time between now and then, obviously learn as much as I can, but I want to, if possible, I'm going to FTD, and I want to come on board and have another discussion with you when it's time. Because that's the path I want to take. I don't want to jack around with, trying to Mickey Mouse and figure out my way. I need to be, I always delegate the authority to those better served, and you've got this resume and background that completely exemplifies, the industry, and so I want to be a part of it.
Yeah, industrial training is critical. I see a lot of stuff on Reddit and Facebook and places where people will say, paying for property adjuster training is a scam. Like you shouldn't have to pay for training. Which, why would you want to be a liability to your IA firm, right, to start? And this is a job with the potential for a person to earn low, mid-ish six figures. Why wouldn't you spend, a few $1,000s out of the gate to be prepared so that you cut off a lot of that, stumbling and hitting dead ends and falling into pitfalls and stepping on bear traps in the beginning. Cut all that stuff off by just getting some essential training that, so you can hit the ground at least a fast walk, if not a run, when you show up on site, and not be a liability and not have the IA firm and the carrier have to devote resources to you as a new person because you don't know what you're doing. And they appreciate that. If, they know that you're new, and if you show up and you're trained and they give you claims, and on Sunday and Tuesday, you start turning in closed claims, you get the right kind of attention from your managers. They're going to be like, hey, this guy's actually starting to close claims. Hey Dan, you're going to get a phone call. I see you're closing claims. Looks pretty good. You got to fix this, that, thing. It's okay. We know that you're new and you got to ramp up, but you're doing great. What can we do to help you, be more successful out here, right? What can I do to support you, right? And you're going to get that kind of support versus people showing up and just clogging up the help rooms because they don't know what they're doing. They're pulling the plastic off the box on their laptop and trying to find the on button in the help room, right? I've seen this, and I'm like, I appreciate there's a little bit of something to be said for just jumping in, right? But if you have the ability to prepare for it, I think that's you're going to have a much better outcome in the long run, and you obviously know this, but I think it bears repeating that the more preparation that a person can have, even having overlapping training, this training program overlaps with this training program, take them both, different instructors, different material overall, but the parts that overlap, well, Matt said this about Xactimate or this part or doing this trick. But this other guy, Jeff, he showed me this trick to do the same thing that's a little bit faster. Or Matt's way better, whatever it is, right? And then you could see a bunch of different ways to do things in that software. Because in Xactimate in particular, there's a lot of different ways to do one thing, right? And there's some of them are more efficient than others. So, being trained and having experience and practicing with it are all ways that you're going to get. Just, I mean, it's. I think it's foolish for people to take the advice of commenters on Reddit, right? Who say, "Oh, just go for a ride along," or "Don't get training, just show up and they'll train you on the job," kind of thing. I think that there may be a little bit of malice there to say, you don't try to come compete with me because I don't want you in here, taking away my opportunities. I'm speculating, but that's getting off track. So
It's all good.
where are you at? Like, so if opportunities came up, started coming up in the next, I don't know, 90 days, do you feel like you'd be ready for those, or you got some work to do between now and then?
Oh, I'd be ready to go in a heartbeat. Yeah, I
So
don't
like for
fear
your personal
this.
life, for like, your home life and stuff you got going at home, animals and all that kind of
Ready to
stuff.
go.
Okay.
Now,
Gotcha.
full
So
throttle.
let me lay out a little bit of a roadmap for you, that I think is ROI sort of, A to B, plan for you. So you would be ready by the time the NACA convention rolls around, which I highly recommend that you attend. So California, the next one I would pick up would be my Florida, which you'll have to do the exam for that one as well, unfortunately. And then pick up all the coastal states for your life, and then some of the Midwest states, notably Minnesota.
Okay.
You're applying to IA firms, which is awesome, right? And so you have to do those getting that onboarding stuff out of the way, like the drug screens and the welcome call and the HR things, all that stuff, right? That's awesome. And by the time we do get to that NACA convention, when you do go to sit down in front of somebody at Pilot or Alacrity or Davies or Eberls or whoever, they're going to want to know if you're in their system or not when they're talking to you, right? Getting Xactimate training, right? So inside of Adjuster TV Plus, I have level 1, 2, and 3 Xactimate training. I'm an Xactimate certified trainer, so this is like official Xactimate training. And we have some Xactimate mobile training in there as well, policy training, all kinds of training. Inside of Adjuster TV Plus, it's kind of like a grab bag, right? So you could just kind of like hunt and pack whatever is tickling you at the moment. You jump into that and look at it, right? You can get a lot out of that, and I consider that to be sort of a reference library of sort of like adjuster skills, to get the like proper property adjuster training. I'm of course going to recommend my training, but this is what covers. This is what puts all those pieces together in a program that is designed to let you get handed 40 claims or 50 claims on an event, on a hurricane or a wildfire or a big winter storm, right? We could have that. They hand you 50 claims. This program tells you exactly what to do with those start to finish, right? How to schedule them, how to route them, how to make your first contacts, how to status your files, how to do your inspections, how to do photo report. We spend a lot of time on photos because it's what proves the loss one way or the other, right? Whether it's covered, it's damaged or not. How to settle up with the insured, how to do all of the documentation that you have to do with the file, setting reserves, doing damage evals, doing a statement of loss, doing a claim summary, doing an invoice, doing underwriting review, talking about subrogation and priors, all that stuff, right? It's the claims process, right? It's designed to take you through the claims process a few times so that when you get handed real claims that you've already had a couple of reps under your belt, right? And we test you on that. So
Correct.
that's why we put that program together. And also with our partner firms, right? I basically went to them and said, hey, what do you need an adjuster to show up with on your front door? Brand spanking new, what kind of training, what kind of gear, all this stuff, right? And they told me, and that's what we put into the program. They want you to be able to close claims day one. So licensing, onboarding with firms, Xactimate, which is included with Fast Track, by the way, with that program, property adjuster training, and if you're like, I don't know, I think, because and some people, it's all online, and it's all self-paced except for we do a weekly live stream every week for the past 3 or 4 years. I do a training basically, but some people don't want to learn online, right? So they want to go do something in person, go to an in-person school, but get property adjuster training from somebody.
You know, subscribing to Adjuster TV here on YouTube is simple, it's free. It's really the easiest way to help me keep making these videos and to keep Adjuster TV moving in the right direction. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. And thank you so much for subscribing.
As you're getting your licenses approved, right? Because during this time you've picked up your Florida and you've applied to these other ones, and they're going to start your inbox or your mailbox or your inbox or whatever is going to start pinging with like Oklahoma has approved your license and here it is, right? Minnesota has approved your license and here it is. Every time one of those comes in, and for every other certification you pick up, you know, whether it's you got your level 2 Xactimate certification, or you pass fast track, or you get a new license, for all the companies that you've onboarded with, I'm picking up the phone and I'm going to call in and talk to somebody in HR, or if I was able to get the name of a manager, or I met one at an orientation, or somebody who's on the kind of the dispatch side of things. Hey, Bob, this is Dan. Listen, I just want to, my adjuster's number is this. I just want to call and let you know. I just picked up my, both North and South Carolina licenses just came through, and also my New Mexico license. I just want to let you know that. If you got anything going on, I'm ready to go to any of those places. You know, you're calling in and you're bringing value to that phone call instead of, you know, the flip side to this, and this is what a lot of people do. If they even call in, a lot of people just shoot emails out. Email's great. Pick up the phone, right? Talk to a person on the phone. The converse to that is the people that call in, and you want to this is what you want to distinguish yourself from. People call in, hey, you know, I've just been sitting here for like 6 weeks and nothing's going on. You know, are there storms? You guys got anything yet? You know, if I'm like the dispatch guy and people do that like all the time, and people call in and somebody says that to me on the phone, and we're like, yeah, we'll call you when something's going on. And if they don't, you know, my next question is going to be, I'm going to pull them up in my system. Hey, have you know, I see you've got 3 licenses, right? You know, have you thought about picking up, you know, some licenses along the Gulf State? Well, you know, I would, but I want to wait until there's actually work there before I get my license. You know, get that stuff beforehand, right? And call in with value, and then you can, you know, it's a 6-minute phone call. You don't have to like go over your life stories with each other. Start developing a little bit of rapport with these folks. If they happen to like, you know, you go to an orientation in Dallas and this person like does a presentation, they're standing up in front of the room, and the very first slide that they have is of their dog, Skipper, right? Write that down, right? It's basic sales stuff, right? You talk to that person 6 months later, hopefully the dog's still alive. Hey, how's old Skipper doing? You guys been, you know, I saw that cool picture, you know, whatever it is, right? That's all you got to do. Right. That kind of thing, I think, works really well. And they remember you, right? So the next thing to do after that is I think by this time it'll be through the holidays. The big event for our industry, as you probably know, is the National Association of Catastrophe Adjusters annual convention. This year it's in Durant, Oklahoma. So it's actually farther away from you than it normally is. Usually it's in Vegas or Reno. But it's, you know, Durant, Oklahoma, it's going to be, where would you fly? Probably fly into Oklahoma City. Probably have to fly to Dallas and then Oklahoma City and then get a rental car. But either way, it's all those IA firms plus, you know, 2 or 3 dozen more are going to be there, and everybody's got a booth, right? And when you register for the event, the conference, there's an app that you download onto your phone, and you can look up Pilot and pull up Pilot's schedule and pick a time in Pilot's schedule to go sit down with them for 15 or 20 minutes, right? And you can do that with everybody.
Heck
and that conference, they've also got, you know, speakers and CE classes and all this kind of stuff. You know, definitely, if anything piques your interest with those, definitely take some of those classes. But I would personally prioritize trying to fill every single time slot of my day with sitting down with an interview with somebody, right? Because that's that's a super high ROI move for that particular convention. You know, they do have CE, right? There's continuing education credits for these classes, but kind of expensive conference. The early bird pricing ends Friday, Halloween. So it's I think 400 or 500 bucks.
Okay.
Um, it's a little bit pricey just to go for CE. Is kind of my point, right? Whereas you could sit at home in your underpants and with your laptop, and for 35 bucks get all the CE that you need for California and Florida, or $70 or whatever it is, and not have to. The best thing to do at that conference is to sit down and interview. So those would be the big moves that I would make. And once you've gotten all that stuff under your belt, then I would look at picking up some sort of like icing on the cake certifications, which I personally am a fan of the IICRC. It's iicrc.org. They have two certifications that I think are probably pretty good for adjusters. One is the WRT, which is a water restoration technician, and the other one is the FSRT, which is fire and smoke restoration technician. Basically, what those teach you how to do is, if you worked for ServPro and you were like, your boss said, "Hey, we got a call, go to the Smith's house over on Elm Street," and you show up at the house and the basement's full of water, what do? Right? And that the WRT should tell you, well, you need to extract the water, you need to tear out this and not tear out that. What kind of water is it? Here's how you dry things out. You got to raise the temperature. You got to isolate. It teaches you all how to do all that stuff, so that when you do get those claims as an adjuster, you can intelligently talk with the ServPro guy, and you can explain expectations and things like that to the insured, who may have questions like, well, what's going to happen next, right? Well, you could tell them. And if you're in a situation where you are responsible for writing a water mitigation estimate, it's cake for you. It's just like, oh, I know exactly how to write this. This is what I came up with. This is what ServPro has. They match, right? We're good to go. Or ServPro, he's asking for like 2 weeks worth of fans when they only need 3 days worth of fans, kind of thing. So you can better with the contractor. So those two certifications, and then I would go to HagueEducation.com. A bunch of certifications and resources. They're an engineering firm, forensic engineering firm, that is sort of like the gold standard for the insurance industry as a whole. So how do we know what hail damage is? Well, engineering firm figured out this is what this is what constitutes damage to a composition shingle, and this is what doesn't. And Hague was the company that does that. And so all the insurance companies kind of rely on Hague. So they have a lot of certifications for, and in general, for adjusters, for restoration construction people, for roof inspectors. And I have a discount code for those guys. It's Adjuster TV. So they have books and tools and all kinds of stuff. So I would dig into their resources and start backfilling, start filling out my resume with stuff from Hague Education. And by then, we're going to be February, March, and spring storm season is going to be kicking up, and you'll be ready to rock if you do all these things. And nothing happened over the winter, right? We didn't have a really bad blizzard or something like that. The widespread kind of damage that you can get in the winter is going to be ice storms, right? Pulls power lines down, trees on everything, and freezing temperatures, power goes out. And this goes for any kind of winter storm. The heat turns off, and especially in the upper Midwest, pipes freeze. And then when the heat comes back on, the everything thaws, and there's a hole that big in a pipe, a supply line up in the upstairs bathroom on the third floor in some big old house in Minnesota or Minneapolis. And everything, the insured's at a hotel because they can't live in the house because it's 12 degrees outside or whatever, and there's no heat. So they're in a hotel, and the heat comes on, and it's on like that for 2 days. All of the drywall in that insured's house is going to be on the floor from the leak all the way down to the basement, right? So those could be huge claims, and there could be a lot of them, right? So winter storms, people think, oh well, I take the winter off or whatever, but there can be some significant events that happen in the wintertime. So it's good practice to be ready for that, to get licenses in the Northeast if you can. That Minnesota license is pretty critical. Michigan is another license I'd pick up. Indiana. So it can happen anytime. time. It can be quiet. It's like, people, how they describe flying, it's like hours and hours of relentless boredom and seconds of sheer terror and that kind of thing. So it's hurry up and wait, and then when it's on, right? And then it's the hardest part for new adjusters, for people coming into this, is this period that you're in right now, right? Because you just don't know when you're going to get your first opportunity, and you want to make sure you make all the right moves and you're not wasting time and resources, money, doing things that aren't going to move the needle for you as a new adjuster, right? But once you get that first opportunity and you're well prepared, then that sets you up for getting the next and the next and the next. Experienced adjusters, this is a slow year, right? But for experienced veteran adjusters, it's not a slow year because there's always something going on somewhere, right? Especially with moving over to the daily side. Daily doesn't care about hurricanes, it doesn't care about wildfires, it doesn't care about any weather, right? The toilet's going to overflow when it overflows. The refrigerator ice maker supply line is going to break when it breaks, and it's just random, right? So those happen all the time, and there's always opportunities for adjusters for those. So if you can hang in there in this beginning part, right, and just have faith that it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, and just lining up your opportunities and having the stars align a little bit and doing everything that you can to stack the odds in your favor. Then once you hit that point and you get through that first storm, which will be a big learning experience for you, then if you decide that some people will do that first storm and they may have done fine with it, and they're like, I hated this. I'm never doing it again, right? That could be you, or you could be like, I'm so stoked on this, I'm ready to go and go and go and go. And that's when you're off to the races. But this is the hardest part. So much work happens in this beginning part, especially with all the licensing rigmarole and all the onboarding and fingerprinting and blah blah blah. It's just a bunch of it's like I was saying, it's kind of like gatekeeping for the industry, that you got to go through all this stuff to get in. But once you're in, and it's I'm not gonna say it's smooth sailing, but it's way smoother than this sort of like beginning part for you.
Good deal. Well, I'm looking forward to it. This is fantastic. So I guess next steps now, right? Just study my ass off and get that exam under my belt.
Pretty good. Once you get that license,
all right.
That's a big one. I mean, California, the population of California is more than Canada, right? So there's a lot of work there, and there's a lot of daily work.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of people don't ever get that license, or it's one of the last ones they get it. If it's your first one out of the gate, you're setting yourself up, especially being in the Bay Area. And if you have any willingness to drive, to other parts of the state, or to drive up to Oregon or Washington, Idaho, Montana, right? Utah,
absolutely.
Nevada, that opens up a lot. It's densely populated on the coast. So, yeah, man. Any other questions?
No, that's awesome. I'm going to sign up for the NACA convention. I'm going to dial that in, get that dialed in before Friday, and then I guess I keep in touch with you, let you know when I pass, and move that forward when it's time.
Posted on what you're up to, where you're at in the process.
And if you're ready to take the next step and actually start your journey as an independent adjuster, getting licensed, trained, and set up the right way from day one, then watch this video right here, which is a complete beginner's guide to getting started in this industry. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and have a great storm.